So today we're going to talk about this bow that I made a few weeks ago. If you've been following along with the channel, you've probably seen it. The video that I put out on it wasn't real informative. I just kind of had scenes of me making this bow, and it generated a lot of questions. Everybody wanted to know what it was, how I made it, how many pounds it was, and so on and so forth. So I thought I'd take today, and since I have made that video, I have played around with this bow quite a bit. This bow is an Osage bow. I harvested it with my buddy. We went out and harvested a bunch of Osage about 6 years ago, actually a little over 6 years ago. This bow measures 64 inches tip to tip. Nock to nock, it's probably a little, I'm gonna say a little over 62, just guessing. I don't think my string nocks, I don't believe are quite an inch from the tip, probably more like 3/4. So I did take, this was the first time I had done any static tips, and I left those ends of my bow rather thick. If I do that again, I might try thinning that down, because my limbs, you can see my limbs are a lot thinner than the static tips. I'm a fairly new bowyer. I don't claim to know everything, but I do like to experiment and try. This bow shoots really hard. When I first made it, when I unstrung it, I had about 3 inches of reflex. The tips were about 3 inches forward of the handle, and I really liked that. But the one thing that I did not like about this bow was I was kind of shooting for a 50 to 55 pound bow, and this one, I hadn't made a bow for quite some time, and I think I left it on the long string a little too long and took a little too much off trying to get everything perfect before I brought it up to brace. So when I was all said and done, this bow was about 41 pounds at 28 inches. So I thought about it for a little bit, and I thought about leaving it, and I thought, well, I got a lot of time to make bows in the future, so I just decided I was going to experiment with this one and see what I could do with it. I'd done some reading on some heat treating and introducing some reflex into the limbs to kind of raise poundage. Some people, say that you can pike the ends, which means just cut off a little bit of the ends and shorten the bow, and that makes it a heavier draw weight. But with these static recurve tips, I didn't want to do that. I liked the way they looked, and I just wanted to keep them. So what I did is took a heat gun, and I put this bow on a form, and I started heat treating the belly. And before I started heat treating, I took some coconut oil. That's just what I had on hand, and I kind of rubbed coconut oil on the belly of these limbs, and then I took my heat gun, and for about 25 to 30 minutes per limb, I just kept going up and down this limb a little bit at a time until the limb started to change colors. And I started clamping it to a form to introduce some reflex. Now I'm going to show you a few pictures of what this bow looked like before I started on it, and then what this bow looked like unstrung after I done it. And there's quite a bit of difference. After I done the heat treating, I let it sit around for 3 days. I took it in the house there, and for 3 days I kept it under my bed, and I didn't string it. I kind of let it rehydrate, kind of reach an equilibrium. On that 3rd day, I restrung it, and I'll show you a picture. And this top limb was very stiff. You can see when I brought it to brace, I thought I'd ruined the bow. I sent a picture to my buddy, and my buddy was like, "Oh man, sorry, that stinks," because he's relatively new to the bow building, such as I am. But I thought, well, what the heck, I've run it. I'm gonna see if I can fix it. So I come out here in the shop. I took a rasp and I started removing material off the belly of this upper limb, and I finally got it what I would call pretty good. And then after all the finished sanding, I'm at 44 pounds at 28 inches. Now, before I started tweaking on it, I had it bending pretty even, and I was up to 48 pounds at 28 inches. Had I known more about the heat treating process and took my time and done it a little more evenly, I believe that I would have been able to raise the poundage a substantial amount more than the 3 pounds that I ended up with. I think where I messed up is On the first limb, I really took my time and got it hot, and I turned the wood almost black in a couple places. And the bottom limb, I thought, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get my limb as hot because I don't want those black or charred places on there. So I was very careful on my bottom limb, and I just kind of turned it like a caramel color. And after letting it sit for a few days and restringing it, it was a big difference, and the top limb was way stiffer than the bottom. So I'm going to unstring this bow and show you the back set that it has in it after I've shot this bow quite a bit. I've been working on getting it ready to go hunting with, taking it hog hunting here in a few weeks. But so with this bow being unstrung, I have about 5 1/4 of immediate back set. Now, before I strung it up, it'd been hanging there in the house for a little bit, and it was sitting at 6 inches of back set. But after being immediately unstrung, I have 5 1/4 inches. Now, this thing, from what I can tell, I mean, it seems to shoot really hard and really fast. So I hope you guys like this video, and next time you have a bow that you're experimenting around with comes in a little bit underweight, don't be afraid to put a little reflex in it and heat treat it and see if you can't raise its poundage. Till then, happy shooting.